Cool.
Yep.
And now? Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Welcome everyone. Thanks for joining. My name is Sam. Today I just want to share just want to give a brief overview of what blockchain data looks like and why it's useful for you all to know, and along the way maybe show how you can get started with using it. So yeah, hi again, Sam. I'm a data analyst in a company called Flipside Crypto. Flipside Crypto is a company that makes blockchain data free and easy to access. So what exactly is blockchain data, right? One of the types of blockchain data you can think of is like a linear data. So this is where the term blocks come in. So imagine you have three blocks, right? And the three blocks are linked together. Block one follows by block two, follows by block three. And then within each block, you can have several things within the block. And the things within the block, we call them as transactions. And you can see on over here, like a particular transaction consists of a lot of information, right? You have like block hash, block number, and all the details within each transaction. So these blocks would carry all these transactions, and if it's proof of work, if it's mined or if it's validated, the block goes through, and then that information will be publicly available on the blockchain. Okay. From whatever you see here, the one that is in red and green, you can different of like different companies or websites extract that information and try to make it easy to read, right? For example, if you are looking at Ethereum, one of the main explorers is Etherscan, and they extract all that raw data, put it on their site, and you can see easily like when is the block timestamp, what's the transaction hash, etc. So they do this for every transaction. Similarly, in Flipside, we do that as well, but we go like additional step by curating the data. So instead of knowing like what is the function, what is the specific function I'm looking for like NFT sales, we create these curated tables where you can directly access all the NFT sales. So you can look up like I want to see the number of sales in the past week, in the past month, breakdown of the different NFTs, things like that. So that's on how that's on what blockchain data is and how like the different companies like extract and then display them. Any questions so far on what is blockchain data? Besides linear, there's also like state type of data where maybe I'll show Etherscan after this, but just to go briefly, state data is like if let's say you have an address like your own MetaMask address, right? The state data would say what does this address currently hold. So like what tokens does it hold? What ERC20 tokens does it hold? What ERC721 tokens does it hold? So that's state data. But the one that we usually deal with is this linear data, where we go from one block over to the next. I think Daniel asked me like, what's the difference between like Web2 data versus Web3 like blockchain data? I think it's mainly the same. Only difference is that blockchain data there is a linearity element to blockchain data. So like this block precedes this block followed by this block, so on and so forth. Whereas um, that might not be a thing in the normal data collection space, right? Like for example, if you look at sales for a shopping mall, you might just have like number of items or like what item was purchased. Yeah, maybe I'll pause there. Any questions so far?
Question, Sam. So in this example of Flipside that you've shown here, right? It's
Hmm.
how is it curated?
Yeah, I can go over that. Let me see. Okay, here. So so recall earlier that whatever you see on Etherscan, we call that as the core tables. Okay, so in Flipside we call them as core tables. So those are like data that is not curated. So if we look over here, core tables would be like um, uh, exactly who transacted when, and all that, details. And then curated would be like, okay, what's the label for this? What's the um, like, is this event a auction? Is this event a sales? Is this event a swap, for example? And then so basically we have the core tables where it's like we do touch up a little bit, but for the most part it's unedited. And then the curated tables is basically our logic of like transforming the core tables to make it easier for people to look up. And of course the code for all this is public, so anyone can like vet and then say like, hey, you missed something, and then we'll go and correct that. But on a high level, like this is how we go from blockchain data to our table. So we have the blockchain data, and then we use several tools to read and ingest that data. And then we use a mixture of dbt and Snowflake, which is basically just like a SQL, and push them in our table. So we have core tables and curated tables.
How sophisticated is curation? Can I have my own labels? Can I have like one particular field from the core table broken down into two separated fields on my curated table? Can I do that?
Yeah, so curated tables are not user-generated tables. Those are done in-house. And maybe it's easier if I show you like exactly what curated tables look like. So this is what the query looks like. Let me just go to like Ethereum. So you notice how there is like facts, tables with like prefixes fact. These are the tables that are not touched. And if I just preview, you can see what sort of data comes up. So you see block number, timestamp. This is before the merge, so you have difficulty, gas limit, hash, etc. And then curated tables like NFT easy mints takes all that data and like filters for minting transactions only. So in this table, you can directly access all NFT mints, as long as we have curated into the table. So, like you get a token ID, the address who minted the NFT, and all that stuff. And then you can see some values here are not in the table. That's because we get the project names from like GitHub sometimes. So like if there is no, if you can't find it, then it's there's nothing here. But if there is, if it's a famous project, there will be a label and there will be a project name. So that's what the curated tables are about. Like we take like specific things that people do on the blockchain, and then we make them into a specific table so that you don't have to scour the whole data to look for a specific function. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Yeah, it does. But it's predetermined by you guys, right? Is there a way for me to create my own?
You can submit a, so there's a program right now, where you can join to be a part of the team that does the curation and submits this table into the PR. So yeah, there is that program running, but it's not
So
open to many. Yeah.
no, I guess so. I hope you don't mind me asking this
Yeah.
this
No worries.
early in the presentation,
Yeah.
but what are the typical use cases of Flipside, right? Like, why do people need to curate this data, and typically, what do they do with this data, right? So that I
Mm.
can kind of visualize as you go on with your presentation of how I could potentially also use this product to benefit whatever I'm trying to build. What
Yeah.
are the most common use cases right now?
Yeah. I have a slide on this. Maybe I'll go to that slide. Let me find where is it. Oh, here. Okay. So imagine you have all this data. You can like have an informed judgment before doing something. So this is like from the user's point of view, right? Like you can, like I written down here, like before aping into NFT, you can look at the number of sales or the who are the holders currently. Or like if you're deciding to become a liquidity provider, you might want to see like are there more swaps in one direction, like in one token over the other. And if so, that means you're going to be you're going to get a lot of the other token, right? So are you okay with that? And then you can look at overall trends of like are people bridging in or out of layer twos. So that's from the user point of view. If you're a protocol, you can look into because like not every protocol has resources to do their own dedicated analytics page. I know like SushiSwap, GMX have their own analytics page, but we've done analytics, or like protocols like Katana and Solana have use our data to like do their own analytics and see like what's the user growth of their protocol, how many people are doing this action, um, how many are doing that action, are people like losing interest, gaining interest, things like that.
Awesome. So from a user standpoint, right? Not from building a analytics for any protocol. How does this differ from the block explorers like filters?
Yeah, good question. So I guess if you want to see like the volume of sales in the past week for a specific NFT, you wouldn't be able to do that, right?
Maybe, yeah. So I'm not that much of an NFT degen, so
Oh,
I
uh,
haven't been really using the tool to,
well,
yeah.
let's say if it's like a DEX, right?
Mm.
Like how would you know for a specific pair, a swap pair, are people, what are people doing in the past week, the past month, the past year? And then could you have even like a breakdown of those accounts? Like I want to see wallets who are newly created. What are they doing? I want to see wallets who have X amount of balance. What are they doing? You can have all these breakdowns with the data. While I think for blockchain explorers, they display what is in each transaction, so you don't get an aggregate view, or you're not able to like query an aggregate view, but you get a detailed view for each transaction, which we do have in the transactions table. Does that answer the question?
Yep. It does. Yeah, I think I'll have to try it out. Looking forward to try it out. So I think from a user standpoint, it could be quite useful for people that flip NFTs. Unfortunately, I'm not someone that flip NFTs, but I'm looking more towards like how this could also potentially benefit what we're trying to build in terms of the dashboard at KopiDAO, right? Because one alternative we were looking at is Dune. So Dune is also able to access blockchain data, and it enables you to have quite the flexibility in terms of how you want to build out your charts and your tables, right? Whereas this one, I think that you guys just provide, correct me if I'm wrong, right? You guys provide your existing tables, and then I will need to extract the data from the existing tables through an API. Is that the case?
No, you can actually create a dashboard as well. Maybe so I created this dashboard for this NFT, and all this data is from here. So let me just maybe like run something. So like just don't mind me. Just so I'm looking for the mints, number of mints for this NFT, which I have no idea what this is. And let's see, 2022. So I'm just filtering for like that specific NFT and like this year. And yeah, this is just counting the number of mints, which I'll look it up what this is. Hagen Dazs. Okay. Oh, okay. There you go. So it was only minted for 2 days. And then you can create the graphs directly. So bar graphs count. So this would be the number of NFT minted per day. And then you can create a dashboard and you can do all this stuff.
Can I embed these charts?
Sorry?
Can I embed these charts?
Embed these charts. I think you can. So if I were to save visual, and then yeah, you can.
Nice.
And you can also download the CSV if you prefer. So yeah, I think Dune has a lot of I think what Dune does well is they've got a lot of user generated queries which are easily searchable. We have a lot of queries from users, but I don't think they are that easily like searchable. But I guess the good part is, you can download CSV. I don't think you can download CSV from Dune. You need to get the premium for that.
Sam, one question in the chat also from Michael. So you explained what the difference between Flipside and Dune is. What about Nansen?
Nansen is more, it abstracts all the SQL from your analysis. So imagine our curated tables, but more curated. So you don't even need to like type stuff. You just drag and see what you want. But again, it's the same where, like how are they curating it? How are they labeling like smart money, which is like one of their main selling points. If we were to have that list of smart money addresses, we can create a unique list here and then do the same analysis.
Okay. Does that answer your question, Michael?
I said yes in the chat.
Oh yeah. Oh, sorry. Okay. And then also one question from my side. Sam, just now you were showing slide 7, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. So what tools do you use for the reading and storing?
It's a lot like Hivo, Streamline. I don't know what else. Like different blockchains have like different ways that we're getting them from. So for example, like Thorchain already has something called Midgard, which they do the reading, and we're just reading from their Midgard API. Whereas, like Ethereum, then we engage with a node, like node provider, and then we get it from them. Different blockchains, different ways.
So you aggregate it all together on
Yeah, so you would see here all the chains. A lot of EVMs, Arbitrum, Avalanche, Polygon, and then you got some Cosmos ones like Osmosis, XLR soon, and then Solana Flow, Algorand, Near, and yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Yeah. Another example of like curated is we have, for example, these Aave tables. So this already sort of like breaks down or like filters for all Aave borrowing transactions. So you don't have to go through like, for example, this to look for like which is Aave, which is Aave's borrowing versus Aave's like depositing, repayment, things like that.
Cool. Okay, we let you get back to your presentation. Of interrupting
I
it.
think I sort of explained like part and part of everywhere already. Maybe I'll get into, I don't know if you're still interested to look at like what Etherscan, what is Etherscan's information about? Is that still something of interest?
Yeah, of course.
Right.
But maybe before you do that, there's actually another question.
Okay.
Before you jump into that segment, right? So Xuan is asking, the data is refreshed automatically. I think is live, like, is it live, or is it like what is your refresh rate like for your dashboards?
Yeah, good question. So I think the main Ethereum table, so the main one that you need, are on a 15-minute refresh. The ones that are less used have refresh rates of like 12 hours or 1 day. Yeah. And it also depends on like the size of the data. Like for example, I can tell you Solana, there are like how many, if I'm not mistaken, I think there are like 10 million rows of data for Solana each day. So like you can imagine from the beginning till now how many rows Solana has. So it takes time to like backfill some, and then especially if there's like a bug in the data, then we will have to like do a full refresh, which would then need time to backfill the rest while we continue getting new ones. So yeah, I would say it's a variable between 50 minutes to a day.
Hope that answers your question, Xuan.
But most of the time it's like 8 hours the max. If it's 1 day, that means something is wrong, and then we will have to look into it. Or like 1 day plus.
All right, I think we can jump to the Etherscan block. You were gonna explain it to us, right?
Yeah. Okay. So I mentioned earlier there are two types of like blockchain data, right? One is state data, which is, let me just grab this guy's address. So this guy, 0x0xAF, he has this amount of tokens. So state data will be like, at this current point in time, what is the balance of GM tokens for this address? And you can look into that. But the more common data is those linear data, which is what you see here under transactions. So all these transactions under this account would be somehow related to this account, right? So for example, I clicked on mint earlier here. Transaction hash is a unique transaction ID. No two transactions have the same transaction hash. Block number is what I explained earlier, like one block could have several transactions. So if I click into this, it would tell me, yeah, there you go, 188 transactions. So like within that one block that we saw earlier in my slide, I had like block 2 had 4 transactions. This block number 131, blah, 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 had 188 transactions. And then the transaction action would be like on a high level, what that transaction is about. Note that this transaction action is a curation. So not the order in which it is shown is not necessarily correct. And the things that happen in here is not necessarily correct as well. The sort of like the true event log is under logs. It's under this tab called logs. From is who initiated the transaction, and then interacted to. This could be a variable, right? So this could be if it's like this case, for example, it's interacting with this NFT's minting contract. So someone has to interact with a contract, and then to say like, hey, I want to use the contract, and then the contract's function is to mint an NFT if I'm given X amount of Ether. So this person sends Ether to this contract, the contract accepts the Ether, and then mints the 7th NFT. And the way things are minted on the blockchain, at least for EVM, is it comes from this null address. So it's here 0x000. We call this a burn address because it's a mint. Or if we were to burn something, it comes from like nothing. So the null address is what things are minted or burned to. So in this case, it's minted. It was minted from this address, and it sends to this address, which is the same as the person who initiated. So the person initiated the minting, and they got the NFT. And NFT token ID is just the NFT token ID. Value is how much Ether was spent except the transaction fee. So if you were to look like, if someone would, when this person interacted with this contract, and before they hit like approve on their MetaMask, it would be 0.14 plus the transaction fee, or maybe higher because they show the max priority fee or whatever. But this value is separate from the transaction fee. And then if you click see more, it just shows you like exactly what is the function, and then if there are any like what is the data encoded in this. So for example here, it says function mint pre-sale tokens. So we can sort of like guess that, oh, this is a minting transaction, and because it says pre-sale tokens, it must mean pre-sale tokens. And using the function IDs is how we usually filter for the curated tables that I mentioned earlier. So like Aave would have their own Aave function, and then they would have their own specific contract. Reading the docs, knowing the contract allows us to be able to like curate those and bucket them under Aave. And then you can even click on decode just to see like what they say. Usually, if it's like NFT, it's not anything important, but if it's like if you are familiar with GMX, Perpetual's protocol, their function here is super complicated. They have like, it records the PNL of the trader, the price of the token when they open, long or short, all that stuff. all of this will be encoded here, and some information will be encoded here in the logs.
What's GMX?
GMX is, oops, I'm shielding GMX.
It's on Avalanche, basically.
Yeah, and Arbitrum. It's a decentralized perpetual exchange where you can open long or short. You can provide collateral and you open long or short assets.
NFT, but I'm also quite invested in GMX.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was looking at the GMX transaction, I think a few weeks ago. It was gave me a lot of headache. But yeah, yeah, go ahead.
No, but let's say looking at the blocks, right? Typically, if we are very new, let's say, what are the primary things that we want to look for? So let's say, like, I think Michael gave you a few examples earlier, right? What kind of tools do you do to kind of track some of the transactions, even if it's like, let's say for fraud, for example, right? If you're looking specifically at fraud, any way that your queries can show a very clear path of how this NFT is being transferred, for example.
So the tables would show. So the tables are basically like derived from this logs table. So whatever is in this logs table, we have it in the event logs table. And I looked at the transaction that Michael shared earlier. It's kind of strange because it seems like there are two addresses involved. Like the scammers have two addresses. One to receive the NFT and the other to set up a sale and then like match that sale with their own what's it called, like offer. I'm not sure like where is that offer. I mean, if I were to like look at here, it says match orders, right? But I don't see them like listing any NFT. So I'm not sure like how they do it. So this is like on a contract level, which I'm not sure how. So if I were to and then I think also Michael also asked I think this is your address, right? Your address sends to this, but then here transaction actions shows this address, which is different. This is why I mentioned like the transaction action could be different because this is not this might not be super accurate. I think why it's showing like 2 here is because this address is the one that initiated the matching transactions. Hence why it thought like this your address sent to that address. But if you look in the logs, you can ignore. So how logs tab works is all arranged from what's it called, like sequentially. So the first log is the first thing that happened. You will notice that the number here is 215 and the one below is 216, so it all happens like sequentially. And then you will go to this event called transfer, and then it shows your address transferred to this address. And the way you will read this is you would read this top part here. So index topic 1, which is this one, index topic 1, address from, so from address, which is your address, and then index topic 2, which is this address to, so who did it send to, and then token ID is the token ID. And I believe this is the Pudgy Penguins contract. So that's how you would read it, but there is no indication of like how exactly it happened. It just seems like that OX9 address had some sort of matching orders that went through.
So Sam, thanks for all of this, right? If I'm not mistaken, the 09 address is actually OpenSea. if I'm not mistaken.
This one?
Yeah, if you click on that, then it says also to Seaport 1.1, right? Like, I don't know, maybe this is like OpenSea's wallet address. I'm not sure if it goes through them before it gets sent to the scammer.
Yeah. So one reason why I wouldn't think this is OpenSea is because so the clues I'm looking for is like the number of transactions.
Yeah, it's very low.
It's very little.
Yeah. Okay.
And
so they're actually still scamming then. Okay.
yeah, and actually this means this address is interacting with this contract. Let me find. I'm sure I have it here somewhere. Oops, no. So like, if it's just a transaction where you're sending Ether to someone, the two here would be the person receiving it. But if you're interacting with a contract, here would show the contract. Does that make sense?
So, but what is this Seaport 1.1 now then?
Seaport 1.1 is OpenSea's one of OpenSea's contract.
Oh, okay. Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah, OpenSea. So I think this is the latest one. They've got like a lot of contracts.
Understood. Okay, so the scammer has two wallets, and then this one is interacting with the OpenSea contract, and the other one is the one receiving the token.
Yeah, exactly.
And one more question about this. Can you go back to the log? And then there is a burner address as well in 217 for the approval.
Yeah.
Like how does this work then? As in, apparently now my wallet address in number 1 then gave approval to a burner to transfer this token, right? So anybody could have transferred the token after this one. Is that correct?
So this approval is not approval for. So the approval to use your wallet's sign or whatever is not in this transaction. It would have happened before this.
Okay. So what is this one then?
This would be approval to OpenSea to approval for it to move your NFT.
Okay, and you deduce that it's OpenSea because
the contract interacting with is OpenSea, which is Seaport. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I see.
Yeah.
Okay. Understood. And then we can never deduce from this what the actual approval transaction was that led the scammer to be able to do this transfer.
No, I don't think it's a I don't think it's an on-chain transaction. I don't think it's like something that it went through on-chain. Like, for example, when like I don't know how you know what I mean, like when you sign something, it's not on-chain.
I see. Okay, that's probably it. You're right.
What do you mean by it's not on-chain? Doesn't it have to happen on-chain?
So what he's saying, the moment that I thought that I was signing a transaction, I got that pop-up window, but it was actually not an on-chain transaction. It was just their way for me to get access to my wallet. So that's why it's not found on the blockchain.
Okay.
That's very interesting. Thanks so much.
Yeah. Any other questions? I'm not sure what else to share. I wanted to share like Ethers, like other examples, but I think we've covered quite a bit already. Like for example, this is just a swap example. If you have your own swap if you've swapped the token before, you can look up your own transaction, and then you can see like what exactly happens. Like in this case, I was swapping with matcha.xyz, which is a product of OX protocol. And then basically it's me interacting with their contract. And then the contract looks for like where is the where is the swap route which has the lowest slippage, and then it decided, oh, sushi swap USDC Ethereum has the less slippage, so they use that pool to swap. And then I know it says here sushi swap USDC, but if you were to click into this, let me see. 0. So if you click here directly, I don't think it goes right. It goes to the yeah, okay. So if you click on anything here, it goes to it goes to the token itself, which is weird. You will need to hover over this and look at like what the number is. In this case, it's OX39. And I'll go back to logs, and then I'll just Control F. OX39, there you go. And if I click into it, it tells me it's a Sushi Swap LP token. And then if you look at the tokens, what they have USDC and Wrap Ethereum, which suggests to me that this is a USDC Wrap Ethereum liquidity pool on Sushi Swap. So that's how you would like decipher what's happening in transactions. And then as usual, if you click see more, you can see the function name. It says sell to Uniswap, which makes it even more confusing. Okay.
I think this is great, Sam. Quite a deep dive into the Block Explorer, but I think I want to lead it back to your product, right? So does Flipside make this easier for us to understand?
Hopefully. So like, okay, maybe if I were to...
So maybe like you can give us like one example, right, of what that is really hard to dissect on the Block Explorer, because I think after tonight's session is that I get it, right? Like the Block Explorer is developed by Etherscan, so they choose to display only certain data on the surface level for you. But when you want to get more data, you need to deep dive into the smart contract level to understand, right? Is that the rough idea? So maybe there's an example where it's really hard to do it on the Block Explorer, but if I use Flipside, it's like, magic displays to me like really easily, that kind of thing.
So there's like two parts, right? One is that I do think Etherscan is really good because it just summarizes it, so it's just like complementary data for you to look at, right?
Yeah, we got an intern that works for Etherscan right now as well.
Yeah,
in a call with you.
You did, right?
Yeah.
But they have logs, which is like the sort of like the one true source, right? Like everything follows the logs. And so I was saying, so I think it's not like one over the other, it's more like complementary. So like I would look at event logs on Flipside, try to see like so event logs is literally just logs, but they make it into rows. So I'll use this and combine with like what I see on Etherscan and try to like decipher what exactly is this transaction, what is it doing, all that stuff. In terms of like what can be different, like what cases you would use Flipside or Dune or Nansen versus Block Explorer is if you want to aggregate data. So if you want to say like, I don't want to see just this one swap transaction, I want to see all swap transactions for this specific pair on this specific day. You cannot do that with a Block Explorer. You would have to use some sort of aggregate service like Flipside, like Dune, like Nansen to filter for that. So that would be the use case. And then in terms of like making it slightly easier to understand, if I were to look at logs, this would be what I'm seeing. So like if I would have to decipher that event inputs from what? I would have to decipher like somehow the contract, which is this, is sending either this USDC or Ethereum, and then they're getting back the other token. It's kind of hard to look at, but in the curated tables, and I'm not sure if we have sushi swap. Hopefully we do, but in the swaps table, it will just be like one row showing how much you swap, how much you get. Okay, we do have. So like, what was the pool name? In this case, USDC, WEF, Red Ethereum, and then swap, and then amount in, how much you swapped, and then how much you got back. And then, sender, transaction to, platform, token out, token in. So it's all the information from that 5 rows you saw earlier, all distilled into one, and then according and with their respective labels. So I think that's what mainly the curation team does.
Sam, I have another question.
All right, go for it.
So I hope I can explain this correctly. Like, is Flipside, then you're retrieving that data from the blockchain and storing it on the cloud again, right? So in a Web2 environment, which maybe also give you a benefit in retrieving that data quicker or not. Like, is Etherscan also a Web2 representation of the blockchain, or do they retrieve it directly from the blockchain, or how does that all work?
They must have a node. So they must have like something reading the data, and then they're getting from that node. Either they run a node themselves or they work with a third-party provider.
Right, because this is real time, right? Like, you can literally see when you are transacting that it's pending and all that kind of stuff, right? So that's not the case then for Flipside, correct?
So Flipside goes through the same route, but the reason why there is like 15 minutes delay is because we have all these pipelines, right? Like, it goes through different tools. And then by the time we go to our tables, we have like a fixed 15-minute refresh rate. So like, if a transaction happened 7 minutes before the refresh rate, obviously you won't see it until the refresh timers like starts, right? That cadence.
But I get this part. But do you think it then also gives you an upside in terms of manipulating the data, because it's then faster and you're doing that in like a mirror database, or?
Yeah, so I think the good thing is like it's all public. So if there's any errors in data, anyone can like raise up and say like, hey, there's something wrong. But more often than not, there is no like manipulation. Let me just show that slide again where you see. Like, the data looks like this. What I'm showing here. It's this. And then we just take, like block hash, block number, chain ID, gas price, gas, and display it as it is. Where we do curate is the curation tables, which you don't necessarily have to use. So like you saw earlier, you can use the tag swaps, but you can also use the event logs table.
Yeah, okay.
Sam, you wanna talk about Shroom DK?
Shroom DK, oh, okay. Before, I think maybe helpful for me to share some context. So imagine the data is like available somewhere, right, in Snowflake, okay? And then we have this front end called Flipside that puts all the data in these tables, and then for you to query, like what I'm showing my screen here. You can use that route, and you can also get the API here. Just click the API button, and then you can put in like, your favorite dashboard making tools like Streamlit, like I have over here, Streamlit. But you can also bypass this Flipside's front end by using something called the Shroom DK. I don't know why they call it Shroom DK, but it's basically the Flipside's data's SDK. So you can bypass this front end and then just use the SDK directly on whatever. I think we have like JavaScript, Python and R. How this works is every day there will be like a set number of Shroom DKs available to mint for free, and once you minted one, if you connect your wallet, you can see like it'll give you your API key for you to use in your, in your whatever you use it for. So it's basically the same thing. If you don't want to use this front end, you can mint this to use it in your own environment. That's basically what Shroom DK is.
So if I'm a developer or a data scientist, if I use Shroom DK, can I create my own curated column like what Jason was asking just now?
If you use if your purpose of the dashboard is to make the created columns, yeah, you can. So like maybe something like, I don't have a filter here, but imagine if you have a filter here that says like how many days, you can do that. Yeah, even without the Shroom DK, you can do that already.
Oh wait, so when would someone use Shroom DK? When they want to have their own, a different user UI, is it? A different UI. That's what.
Yeah, if someone would use Shroom DK if they don't want to go through this front end, basically. They don't want to use Flipside query editor to do the query, use the graphs, and etc. Also, if they want to use it with like other languages like JavaScript, Python, R, that would be when one would use Shroom DK.
I see. Thank you.
So every query is an NFT, right?
Only the API key.
So one API key can do how many queries?
One query, one API. Wait, let me think. Yeah, one query, one API key, and then you can refresh the query, refresh the API key.
So basically, every day I get 21 free queries, then one API key is one mint.
Correct. Yeah.
And then one query is one API key.
Yes.
That means 21, right?
Yep.
21 queries, right?
Yeah.
And they
doesn't that mean that there's 21 people can create a mint or could create an NFT that day?
Yep, that's correct. So every day this number would refresh, and then yeah.
Wait, what? Like only 21 people can create it one day? Or my address can create 21 one day?
Only 21 people can mint a Shroom DK API, but the ones that you have minted previously, you can use it perpetually.
Oh. Okay, I got it.
Yeah.
Okay, I got it now. Okay.
Yeah, it's not every time you want to use, you have to mint the day itself. Once you've minted, you can use it perpetually. So like again, if you don't want to use this, there's already like the API here. You can just use this front end, and then click API, and then the API is here. It's mainly for people who like have their own environment, wants to personalize everything. Yeah, they can use Shroom DK.
Okay, I'm conscious of time, but I have one more question also. So there's this data share that you guys provide also. How has this data share been used by your clients or your customers?
How has it been used? You mean like how the protocols use it, or
the use cases that people have been leveraging your data share service?
So like we have something called a bounty program. If I were to go to the site, where is it? if you go to earn, you will see like there are some questions here, and then if you solve the questions, you would earn the rewards if it's correct, and then if you meet several requirements. So like the way we run the bounty program, there are some programs when we work with partners, the intention is to like retain the customers, and then there are some programs where the intention is to acquire customers. So like for ones who are to retain the customers, we would run these bounty programs, and then customers would users would like do these bounties, get paid in that token, and then we also have seen like people who are paid in that token, like have earned the token, tend to like hold them longer as opposed to like just getting airdrop and then sell. For I don't know why, for some reason. And then and if you're like someone who is interested in just the insights, we also run like flash bounty. So for example, like right after the merge, we want to maybe some protocols want to see like how has that affected their users, so like they can engage with us to run a flash bounty and say like, right after the merge, what happened, things like that. So yeah, that would be the use cases to use the data. So like if they want to maintain a continuous like a group of people understanding the protocol, the blockchain, and then using it, they would engage with this. And then if they want to have like more immediate insights, they can engage as well. And the reason why protocols want to retain is because imagine if you're looking at let's say Solana, right? If you're looking at Solana data every day and you're like doing bounties that looks at like how many NFT users or like how many users for Orca, right? For example, which is a DEX. And then you're so into the weeds that you know so much about Solana already. So you're kind of invested in that sense. Maybe not financially, but like so much about the protocol, about the blockchain. From what we see, people tend to like stay within their communities that they are that they know more of. Does it make sense?
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Sam. Any more questions from the floor? More? Okay, then. If not, you know where to find Sam. He lives on our Discord. He doesn't do anything else. No, I'm kidding.
Yes.
He'll be there. And if you're new here, I want to welcome you. You can go and fill out a form on our early.kopidao.com. I think there are a few new faces over here. It's just a sign up form for KopiDAO. Thank you all for being here, but most of all, thank you, Sam, for really putting this presentation together and educating us tonight. It was really great. I have one last show, which is this Thursday. TY will be having a session on hyperstructures, and so it's same time this Thursday, 9:30 p.m. and it'll be on this link. And hope to see you guys there.
So Yodesh actually had an idea that maybe down the road we could do a dashboard using Flipside, depending on what kind of data that we want to play around. Got a little hackathon. Sounds pretty cool. But yeah, thanks Sam. Can't remember when was the last time I actually wrote a SQL code or query. I've been using Mongo too much. Too used to that already, but we'll check it out. Yeah.
Yeah. Feel free to ping me if you have any like issues using SQL or Flipside in general. Happy to help.
All right. Okay, thank you guys. Thank you. Let's call it a night. Thanks again so much, Sam, and see everyone.
Thanks, all.
Thank you, Sam.
Thanks, Sam.
Bye.
Thanks, Sam. Thanks for your time. Thanks, everyone.